Hey there. Hi, everybody. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome to our live video. Let me just kill the lights over here. There we go. Um, so happy to be here with you. It's Endometriosis Awareness Month. And so, of course, I wanted to get on and talk about endometriosis with you all and offer my thoughts and support and best practices for dealing with this challenging condition. I'm curious, of course, before we get started, say hello, let me know where you're tuning in from. And of course, if you have endometriosis, I would love to know if that's why you're here today. And if this is your first live with me, welcome if it is. Welcome, welcome. I am Elisa Vitti. I am the founder of Flow Living. I am the author of these two books you see behind me, Woman Code and In the Flow. I am the creator of the My Flow app, myflowtracker.com, and I am the inventor of the cycle syncing method. So if you've been seeing that hashtag, that is my work. And I am really proud that we're sort of a 5 million strong movement of women who are reclaiming their hormonal health. So, like I said earlier, today is a conversation about endometriosis in honor of Endometriosis Awareness Month. And I think that, I want to start with just sort of a conversation around, you know, it's it's a frustrating condition to have because it goes, I think of all the menstrual disturbances, it's the one that seems to go undiagnosed for the longest. I would say that one and adenomyosis, which is sort of a close relative to endometriosis. Hey there from the UK. Nice to have you. Welcome. Um, and I think that it's just so frustrating. By the time you get a diagnosis, you've already been suffering for like uh, easily 5 years, if not a decade. Um, and you know, I think it can be really not only frustrating that you've had to suffer for so long, but then really frustrating in a second way because then you're presented with like, well, there's not a really any great solutions, right? And so we're going to just talk about what you can do to move from feeling frustrated and disempowered to in an empowered taking action state. So, some facts, it affects as many as 1 in 15% of women in the United States alone, ages 15 to 44. And this condition is basically, think of it as when the endometrial lining, which is found inside the uterus, grows in places outside the uterus where it shouldn't be. Somebody who's had this, there are a couple of people in the US at least that are pretty well known for talking about their endo. That's Padma Lakshmi and Lena Dunham. And, it's painful because sometimes this endometrial tissue will land like on the ovaries or fallopian tubes or in the abdomen, near the intestines. And because this endometrial tissue then responds to the same hormonal shifts that trigger the menstrual cycle, the pain associated with endometriosis can follow the same pattern as like your menstrual monthly cramps, right? And the cramping can be really debilitating depending on where this tissue has sort of lodged itself. And it's not clear to Western medicine why it strikes some women and why not others. There certainly seems to be some genetic predisposition. However, as we know, genes do not determine your destiny. So, what are some other things that could be factoring into fueling endometriosis taking place? So, the first thing has to do with the immune response. So, in women with endo, the immune system isn't actually destroying the endometrial tissue that lands outside the uterus, and it's supposed to. So, there's that. So, there could be a little immune dysfunction. Then there's this issue with excess estrogen in the body, which can fuel in some women the sort of exacerbation of this endometriosis condition. Then there's inflammation, right? Which is like excess estrogen. It's driven by lifestyle, sort of all the toxic exposure that can drive inflammation can fuel endometriosis. So I wanted to talk today about sort of the best foods for endometriosis, some lifestyle things to do, some foods to avoid, supplements that I like, and just really figuring out some ways for you to support yourself emotionally through the process of working with your body to get some improvement in your symptoms. So I want to cover a lot. And hey, Amy. Hey, Sarah. Nice to see you both. And of course, as I'm chatting with you, please feel free to type in any questions that you have. That is why we're here on the live. So you get the benefit of being able to ask your questions to me in real time. So let's start with the worst foods for endo. Let's start with the things that have got to really kind of get cut out. So, these shouldn't be surprising to anybody, right? Alcohol, it's immunosuppressive, it's hard on the liver, it drives inflammation, it's not great. Caffeine, there's actually research that's linked the intake of caffeine with endo, so it's good to really limit, if not avoid, caffeinated beverages. Refined, highly processed carbs, so, any of the processed breads and pastas and cookies and cakes, they're inflammatory, which of course is gonna exacerbate endometriosis. Dairy, um, it's really something that should be avoided with endo just because it can fuel the growth of these things, and you can opt instead for things like coconut yogurt and kefir and non-dairy creamers. Fried foods, red meat, sugar, processed foods, right? All of these things that drive inflammation, suppress the immune system, and really offer no phytonutrient support. Um, or add toxic load to the body. So these are the things we want to avoid. And then you might be thinking, well, gee, I feel like I'm limiting those things as it is. If you're limiting, good for you. Maybe take it up a notch and try to cut things out altogether just to give your body a chance to heal. So, for example, most of you know my history with PCOS and sort of what got me started on my journey with women's hormones. Um, what was really interesting to me was that in retrospect, now having been 20 plus years out from my sort of recovery from PCOS, when I first had to start my recovery process, I had to be very extreme. No dairy, no gluten, no nothing. Um, as I have been in recovery for such a long time now, I notice that I've done experiments just because I'm a curious person. I can have the occasional, as long as it's organic wheat flour. Like there's a bakery that's nearby that sources their grains from this one organic farm, in the nearby state, and they make these beautiful, and then they get the butter from the organic, dairy farm, right? So they make these croissants with like these two ingredients, butter and wheat flour. And I can have that occasionally and it doesn't disrupt me. If I had put that into my system 20 years ago, I would have broken out in hives, I would have had bloating, I would have had immediate symptoms letting me know that my body just couldn't handle that. But now, having recovered, I can have the occasional indulgence in that direction. I don't do it very often because it's still gluten and dairy, but occasionally it's okay. So why I'm sharing that with you is if you feel like you already feel like you're limiting, and when does it get better? I would like to offer the sort of perspective that when you do give your body enough time of a deep rest from foods that are triggering for you, your body does heal and does get stronger and does get better able to handle things. And so um, you can have that in your future as being able to tolerate things a little bit better. Hey, Ola from Poland, the books are translated. I just got word that In the Flow is going to be translated in Polish. And I know Woman Code already is. So I'm so glad to see you here. Welcome. Um, So just don't feel overwhelmed and limited because it's really just, you want to think about right now that you might need to do some triage, some deep healing, some deep rest from triggering foods, and then see how your body responds later, right? It's not, nothing is static when it comes to health. Everything is always changing and evolving. So, all right, let's talk about best foods. So there's some foods that I think help boost immune function, right? So these are things like carrots, garlic, ginger, leafy greens, leeks, mushrooms. Do you know white mushrooms? There's a study done on white mushrooms and how they're really beneficial in fighting off the common cold. So interesting. Um, Rooibos tea, sauerkraut, berries, right? All of those things are great to boost your immune function. And then fiber rich foods help with estrogen elimination and detox, right? So brown rice, beans, any legumes, quinoa, low glycemic fruits like berries and apples and um, pears, especially. Pears and apples contain a substance called fluorectin, which can help reduce. I usually recommend these for fibroids, but they can be great for endometriosis as well because it helps with growth, tissues that grow too much. Um, any dark leafy green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, especially, right? And for liver support, which is sort of a general detoxification, not just from excess estrogen, but also from all the toxic, environmental things that you're exposed to. I love to support the liver for endo with things like artichoke, beets, burdock, cabbage, dandelion, and mustard greens, watercress, right? And healthy protein, since you want to avoid red meats and dairy, right? Salmon, beans, poultry can be good. Just make sure that the poultry is not like industrialized, fed on soy, and that the salmon and other fishes are wild and not farm raised and full of chemicals, right? So it's super important to source your ingredients as best you can. So that's the situation with foods to avoid and foods to include. Let me see if I can take some questions. Jessica, will you update the MyFlow app? Yes, we're working on it. And it hopefully will be ready as soon as possible. Doing our best to get it done. Um, and we will keep you informed when it's ready. Um, okay, Sarah. Sarah's a fan of toast. It's gluten free, seeded option. Yeah, if Sarah, you're getting anxiety, racing heart after eating it, then that's a food that's not working for you, right? So that's a thing. I think that it's important um, to really not just say, "Oh, well, this is a health food and therefore it's safe for me." You really need to sort of work with your body and its feedback to you. So if you eat something and it's giving you an anxiety attack, um, you want to avoid that, right? There may be some substance in the gluten-free formulation that is creating a reaction for you, right? Again, understanding that there's an immune issue at play here too. You may be more sensitive to foods as well, and looking into that can be a really important thing. I'm so glad, Jessica, that you love the app. Thank you. I appreciate that. I work so hard to try to build the things that can make your lives easier. It's not easy, but I'm trying my best. Um, Lauren wants to know about soy. Yeah, so it really depends on soy. I actually did a fun segment with Dr. Oz years ago where we took out a giant, you can look for this, it's like me and a giant soybean, and we took it apart and showed all the parts that were good for you and then what happens when they process soy. So it's the soy isoflavones that are found in like a soy protein powder or soy protein isolate. That's the highly processed form. And this highly processed form of soy, that's the stuff you want to avoid. But the soy that's fermented, especially, so the fermented soy would be like miso and tempeh and and the natto, which is sort of like this gooey soybean fermented thing, delicacy in Japan, super delicious. You just have to kind of get used to the texture. It kind of has a sliminess like okra. If you like okra, it's similar. It's just more slimy, but it's good if you put a little like lemon juice on it. Maybe a little Bragg's amino acids to kind of give a little flavor to it. It's quite delicious. And you kind of what they do in Japan is they take their chopsticks and they whisk it really, really well, and the slime kind of turns into this cream, and it's like less gloopy and it's more delicious. So that's what I do. I beat mine up with the chopsticks and then just have like a couple, tablespoon here or there. Um, so edamame is a whole soybean is perfectly fine, but the best benefits are from the fermented soy, more bioavailable, and that's what really gives all the protective benefits to people in Asia, where they've done all the studies on the types of soy that are protective for so many things. Um, Especially for women's hormones and other diseases. So if you can make the choice to switch, I would do that. But if you want to have edamame as a snack, go for it, right? But things I would stay away from are like soy protein powders and any processed soy that you see in prepackaged processed food. You want to just steer clear of that, right? Sarah, I'm so glad that the protocol has helped enormously. For some reason, Sarah, I'm having a little bit of a I don't know what to call it. This just happens when I work with people one on one. And just please take this with a grain of salt. This is by no means a diagnosis of any sort, but because you're telling me you're having like an anxiety, racing heart reaction to a food, you may want to look into something around mast cell activation. Sometimes, there could be some other factor at play with reactions to food that have to do with your immune system that could exacerbate indirectly your endo. And a lot of people have mast cell activation and don't realize it. And so it's actually something I'm investigating for my husband right now. So it's on top of my mind. And it might be difficult for women with endo to think about it because some of the symptoms can be similar in the sense that like after you eat, you can get very, very bloated. But the thing is that it's timed with when you're eating something, like quickly after you have a reaction, an allergic style reaction. So that can be something on the skin. It can be sort of this anxiety kind of feeling. It can be like extreme bloating and distension in the gut. It can be IBS like symptoms. So, anyway, I have no idea if this is something that's going on for you, obviously, because I haven't talked to you, but um, just do a little, you can go down the rabbit hole of mast cell. You can look into it a little bit more, see if it resonates. You can find someone who can give you an official diagnosis so that you're not just guessing. But I could be useful. And I think that, again, and the reason why having that's inappropriate to your endometrial tissue. And so, looking at where can we support the immune system as a whole, right? I think that's really, really important. So that could be for some people healing and sealing the gut, right? So for someone with endo, having some bone broth or L-glutamine, with some probiotics, could be taking colostrum. There's some things that are going to help the immune system that are going to help the gut. So, our intestines have these fissures. When we eat well, the fissures are nice and tight. When we eat inflammatory foods, they open up and then food particulate escapes and gets into the bloodstream and creates an autoimmune response that can have effects all over the system of the body. So it's important to kind of take a peek and see, outside of just what's happening with your cycle, where else, what other systems of the body are not functioning optimally and how, because everything is so connected when it comes to when we look at things through the functional medicine lens, everything is really so connected. Some supplements that I think are really helpful. I mean, obviously, food comes first when addressing any hormonal imbalance, but using targeted high quality supplements is really key. In fact, I think that together they are the optimal way to address hormonal issues. So, here are some of the supplements I recommend for women with endo to consider, right? Milk thistle. contains the antioxidant silmarin, which helps repair the cells in the liver and protect the liver cells from damage. It's also anti-inflammatory. Evening primrose oil. Some studies suggest that it offers powerful support for a variety of hormonal imbalances and can help with pain management for endo. Vitamin B6 can help balance excess estrogen by boosting progesterone production in the body, and it's also liver supportive. Probiotics, of course, help support a healthy microbiome, which is essential for the management of endo because of that colony of bacteria in the gut that helps process estrogen called the estrobolome. And you want to support that by taking a good quality probiotic. And then DIM, diindolyl methane, supports the body in eliminating excess estrogen. It's derived from cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli, and it metabolizes estrogen into smaller components that are easily assimilated and removed by the body. So, again, if you look at sort of combining food and supplements, it can really, really be a valuable tool. Sadia, do we need to take a break after 3 months while doing seed cycling? Um, no, there's no reason to take a break. I mean, first and foremost, what are you using the seed cycling for? I guess is sort of the first question I would ask. So answer that question for me, and I'll give you some more input. Flora, I think that you would, depending on which supplement you're purchasing, you would want to follow the instructions on that particular bottle because every formulation is different. So I can't really speak to the optimal time for you to take that. I would just sort of follow whatever it is that you have purchased. Um, oh, Sarah, I'm so glad. Sarah, by the way, I'd love to hear more of your story. So, Sarah, you're saying that you're using the protocol, it's helped a lot. You're having some recurrence. I'm curious what shifted in the first place, how long you were doing the protocol before you saw some symptom improvement, what what symptoms are recurring in the past month or so. I see you're starting to take the balance up. I'm really glad you're doing well. And yeah, let's dive in and troubleshoot a little bit. Give me some more deets, juicy deets. Um, and let's see, Sadia, short monthly cycle. Okay, so when we have a short cycle, and this is a little off topic, but whether you have endo or not, when your cycle is short, that's often referred to as a luteal phase defect, which has to do with insufficient levels of progesterone. So, Sadia, we would be curious, and again, I can't do consultations on these YouTube lives, but that's where you can reach out to flowliving.com and schedule a consult with a flow coach. And they would kind of work with you to understand, your age, the sort of factors that have led you to this lifestyle, diet, and when the symptoms began and what other factors are part of the process. And then they can help you start to put together your game plan to restoring your cycle because you want to certainly have a healthy full cycle. So seed cycling alone is not enough to, let's say, fix your cycle length. I know it's very popular on social media, but um, it's a great place to sort of dip a toe into aligning some of your self-care with your cycle, but it's not enough to move the needle with something as significant as that. I want to talk a little bit about the emotional aspects of endometriosis just because there's more and more research um, that sort of helps us understand the mind body connection. And I always really would like to remind women that the mind body connection actually geographically is located um, in the the endocrine system, right? We have glands in our brain, and then they connect all the way down the body. So it's like literally the mind body connection. And so I think it's important for us to understand that um, we have this. Okay, wait, I want to press pause on this and talk to Sarah again here for a minute. She asked a question about, are all these in your balance supplements? The supplements that I just mentioned, um, the probiotics are, vitamin B6 is, and the other three, milk thistle, evening primrose oil, and dim, are not. But stay tuned. You know, I'm always cooking up something new for you. Okay, and then cycle syncing your food had a noticeable effect within weeks. Okay, that's great, of course. And you found you had sensitivity to peanuts during ovulation. That's great, right? Yeah, I mean, Sarah, I think if cycle syncing really helped you, I would now really look at how you can start to clean out foods and, give your body a break from anything that's inflammatory, right? Any allergy. Foods that cause allergies in people are foods you should probably take a break from, like so peanuts and shellfish, and just kind of like give your body a break for a few months, just as an experiment. 2 months, short amount of time. Take away all known foods that are, and maybe even nightshades, um, so tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, white potatoes, like really just kind of go very simple with the foods and see how you do. See how your body responds to having low inflammatory foods in the system. And, it's going to be very telling, because if you have any sort of breakouts or any kind of food related flare ups, I think that's your body's way of letting you know that doubling down on the food changes is going to keep giving you good results. I'm so thrilled that you're feeling good. Um, Good. Yep. Seed cycling helps you keep on top of your pain. Keep in mind that the pain piece is going to be greatly benefited from more omega-3 fatty acids, right? So, yes, seed cycling, but also you want to be taking a good omega-3 that is in the new supplement kit that you're taking. Okay. Um, yeah, Alize has a question. You're welcome, Sadia. Definitely reach out to flowliving.com. You can even send an email right now to support@flowliving and say you're on the live with me now and I told you to book a consult. They'll take good care of you. Alize, and we work with women all over the world, so it doesn't matter where you are. Um, you're suffering from acne for more than 10 years now, and you're 30, and you have severe period pain. You don't have endo. Wondering if you have any idea what the problem could be. So if it's not structural, meaning there's no endo or other physical things that are creating the problem, although it's tricky for you to be diagnosed just from a sonogram, for endo. That's not usually the standard way that they do that. And also that wouldn't necessarily, I mean, there could be adenomyosis, which is sort of a similar but slightly different version. It's sort of, instead of outside the uterus, it's growing inside the muscle of the uterus, but can also cause pain. Um, but if, let's say, it's none of those complex issues, then really what we're talking about is an imbalance in the fats that you're eating that are causing the pain. So your uterus is governed by three prostaglandins: PGE1, 2, and 3. And PGE1 and 3 control uterine relaxation, and PGE2 is what governs cramps. Okay. So if you eat omega-3 rich foods, right? Foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and take omega-3 supplements, you're going to boost the production of omegas of PGE1 and 3, which cause that relaxation. If you eat highly processed fats like canola oil and safflower oil and other vegetable oils, these jack up the production of PGE2 and suppress the production of PG1 and 3, and you get cramps without the relaxation, and that equals more pain. So, this is really powerful information because I've told this to countless women who've been in very painful monthly situations who, after 1 month of changing their fats, have a pain-free period. 1 month can be that fast. So I really want you to look at what are the oils in the foods? Like if you buy chips, crackers, bars, anything, they put in all the junk oils because they're cheaper, and you can't have it. You just can't. You got to give yourself a break. So you've got to, stay away from that stuff. All the processed food is typically the types of fats that really don't work well for the female hormonal system at all. Um, so, Alize, you got to kind of dig a little deeper, do a little bit more cleanup, and stick to the protocol, and you will absolutely get results. I've just seen it so many times. Um, so, that is what I have to say about that question. Um, Flora, yes, absolutely want to help you with this. This is definitely something that requires a individual conversation. So definitely schedule. Okay, that's going to be the best way for us to dive deep with that. And then I will say, Alize, about the skin. The cramps are one thing. The skin, really, this is like a liver thing, right? Remember, the organs of elimination are the skin. That's our largest organ of elimination, the liver, the lymph, the liver, and the large intestine. So when we see that the skin is breaking out, what that means, what that should signal to you is that all of the other organs of elimination underneath are overloaded and the toxins are floating up and trying to come out through the level of the skin. So it's important for you to support. That's what I love about the detox product in the balance supplements. It really gently helps the liver do daily detoxing and help the skin throughout the cycle. Um, I think that's important. In the cycle syncing supplements, there's support in the ovulatory product that can really help with breaking down estrogen as well. So there's a lot of support in the supplements that I've baked in. Um, so I would really recommend that you start to look at, again, using the cycle syncing method throughout the cycle, because if you're eating more of the raw foods and juices and things during the ovulatory phase, if you're eating what I'm talking to you about in the luteal phase, you're going to be keeping that estrogen elimination happening every day. You're going to be supporting the liver every day. And those breakouts, they're just going to go away. Remember, I used to have cystic acne all over my face, chest, and back for over a decade. And I know how frustrating it is. And when you clean up the systems of your body, the skin will tell you when you've gotten that right. It's just wonderful to see. So don't be mad at your skin. Be grateful. It's telling you that you're congested, you're overloaded, the body your systems of elimination are not functioning properly. It needs your help. It's at those zits, those pimples, they're looking at you every day saying, we can't pick up the fork and eat the kale, but you can. So this is your little daily reminder to eat things that are going to help us clean your system out and make sure you're going to the bathroom every day. Fiber, fiber, fiber. There's so many things to do that really work. And go to the Flow Living blog. So if you go to flowliving.com and there's a search bar at the top, you just type in acne. I've written a ton of articles about all the foods and supplements and everything that you can do to help navigate your acne. So feel free to go and browse there as well. And stick with the protocol because it works. I've been helping women with this protocol for over 20 years now. I know that it works and I know it can work for you. You just got to do the work, It's simple and straightforward, but you do have to apply the effort and the consistency to get the results. You're so welcome, everybody. Do I anticipate a cookbook in the future? I would love to do that. I just need some time to do it. But I would love to do all the things for everybody to make everybody's lives easier when it comes to managing their hormones. Um, okay, so Sarah, you're having some bladder sensitivity and you think it can be agitated by excess estrogen. Interesting. Also, you could get checked for group strep B. You could get checked for any sort of issues with bacteria in the bladder, interstitial cystitis. There's other reasons why that could be the case that are not related to endo. Um, if you're noticing that there's a cyclical pattern to the bladder sensitivity, then that could be a different thing. At the same time, that what that could simply be is that when estrogen is on the decline part of the cycle, you have a little less, you have a different immune response that could kind of give more proliferation to bacteria in the bladder, if that's what it is. But I think it's something that you want to kind of keep looking into, right? And figure out what is going on there. All right. My gosh, the time has flown by. Let me make sure that I get to the sort of emotional aspect and the mind body connection. Um, I think that, what do I want to say about this in the few minutes that we have here? I I think when we look at um, the conversation about whether it's endometriosis or whatever it is that you have, right, with your cycle, I want you to think about your female reproductive organs, uterus, ovaries, vagina, as sort of your low heart, right? You have the heart here. That's the emotional center of your body, right? But then that's like, I call that our high heart, right? Then there are these deeper emotions that we might not be ready to process that are held. And this is not my theory, right? In traditional Chinese medicine, they believe that um, different organs of the body will hold specific emotions if they're not processed properly, right? So the liver can hold anger, the lungs can hold grief, etc. And I'm not a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, but those are pretty easy to Google and find. And what I have seen in my years of helping women is that we sort of have the emotions that we can understand and process that are kind of in our high heart. And then emotions and things that we can't process, they kind of get stuck in our low heart, which is our reproductive basin, the pelvic basin. And I think that when they're held there and they're stuck, and Marion Woodman, she developed a concept of feminine psychology, and her work actually detailed how unconsciously held emotions, feelings, and thoughts actually specifically affect the female body. So I really think that it's important, and there are more studies that back this up. Woodman investigated how women feel about their bodies and this distrust and the trauma and all of these things, cultural oppression, they can manifest in physical symptoms, especially those relating specifically to female biology. So, one theory about the emotional component of endometriosis is that it may reflect, even if it's just symbolically, a physical manifestation of putting others' needs before your own, right? And let's just think about the uterus. It's by design, it exists to put another needs first, right? Like the endometrium itself is the first maternal embrace that the embryo receives, right? Um, so it mothers the baby physically before you ever hold your baby, right? And so there's this theory that if your endometrial tissue is growing outside of the womb, it's the body's attempt to mother the woman who isn't mothering herself, who isn't putting her own needs first. By creating a symptom that you have no choice to pay attention to, you're going to have to put your own needs first and set aside that mothering behavior to others that leaves you feeling depleted. So you can certainly take care of other people, but you need to be doing it in a balanced way, not where you find that you're left feeling resentful or stressed or exhausted. Um, and let's not forget that there are huge expectations put on women, and we've seen that blow up in the pandemic, to be the care providers, the emotional labor of to do all the emotional labor, to put the kids first, to stop working. I mean, it's all of that can be very oppressive and stressful. So if it resonates with you where you feel like you're keeping everybody else happy, but you're not attending to your own needs, this could be an emotional theory that could be a factor of your endometriosis. Of course, is not the sole root cause of the disease, but it is really super valuable to connect any and all of the dots that could be a factor for you because, you know, recovering from something is not just the act of just food, just supplements, right? It's changing your lifestyle, changing your mindset. And oftentimes, when we do these things of getting in good habits of our self care, we have to shift our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to others. And for women with endometriosis, there could be a factor here around just the energetics of the balanced mother, making sure you're filling your cup first, and then with whatever you have left, giving only then. And I think that's important to think about if it's something that's coming up for you, not to shy away from looking at those pieces. I know for me with my PCOS, and this is a different emotional root cause, there was sort of a major disconnect that I had made as a young woman about being a woman. I grew up in a family of all boys, and I had all these male cousins around me, and I made a very strange, unconscious connection as a young person. I was a preteen, and it just seemed like um, that somehow I made a connection that being a woman was going to be some sort of liability. And I just kind of divorced myself from my body. And interestingly enough, when you look at the function of what goes wrong with PCOS, there is a literal disconnect between the pituitary gland and the ovaries, right? So the mind body connection, they're just not talking to each other. And it wasn't until I really, in addition to doing the food and the supplements and lifestyle change, but really deeply addressing that subconscious disconnect, did my full recovery kind of blossom. So I share this with you because I've seen it in myself. I've seen it with everyone that I've worked with. And I think with endo, it's important to look at that as well because it certainly can't hurt to look at it. And it only can lead you to a deeper understanding and more compassionate relationship with yourself. So, if it makes a lot of sense to you, Zimni, then I'm grateful that I brought it up today. There's so much to do just in recap, right? Eliminate exposure to toxic estrogen and household cleaners, emphasize the right foods, eliminate the bad foods, um, you know, take some of these supplements that we talked about, and take a look at this sort of mind body connection that could be a factor in helping you expedite your recovery, right? And if those of you, I know we mentioned the Flow Living supplements today, there's Balance, there are the cycle syncing supplements, they're both behind me here. Feel free to go to flowliving.com and purchase those things today if you feel like those would be supportive to you in your journey. And of course, if you want to dive deeper with your symptoms and your specific situation, absolutely just email support@flowliving and we will book a session with you with one of our flow coaches and give you the individual support that you need. I am sending all of you who are struggling with endometriosis a lot of love and support in any way that we can be helpful to you at flowliving.com, the hormonal healthcare company for women. Let us know. We are here for you. And until next time, take really good care of yourself. Bye.